guys, welcome to this emergency episode of the Nutmeg Assist podcast. Myself, Rithwik, the host, and today I'm joined by Sudesh, who's going to be the co host of the show. And we're going to be, obviously ranting about the European Super League and, why we think it's a complete disgrace to football as a whole and why it's a complete disgrace to the fandom, why it's a complete disgrace to the football universe as a whole. Sudesh, welcome first of all. I mean, it's been a while, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while, and considering the situation, like we've been quite busy, like these past 24 hours. And yeah, it's been quite a while considering that a lot of events have happened in this space. So yeah, I mean, very busy, and it's been a while since I got to Nutmeg Arena, and what a time to be at the Nutmeg Arena.
Yeah, I mean, just in case you forgot, we've rebranded from the Nutmeg Arena to the Nutmeg Assist podcast. Just it's just like rebranding from the Champions League to the European Super League. Nah, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. This is more of a practical change rather than some disgraceful one. And I mean, the first question that I want to ask you is, but just before that, when I just heard this news yesterday, when I heard the rumors go out yesterday, and when people started picking this up, I thought, all right, this probably might yet again be another pressure tactic. It could end up as a pressure tactic. Then I just went to sleep. I wake up today morning and I see that the announcement's already made. There's already a website set up. Then I see clubs one after the other, that even includes the club I support, Liverpool. And it might become the club that I supported. There could be an ED added at the end, probably after 3-4 months. I'm not sure. But when I heard this today morning, when I saw the confirmation, I was absolutely shocked. I mean, I just can't believe what just happened. And I was trying to think. I was trying to think, what the logical reasons were, and I couldn't find much. I mean, probably yes, for these clubs financially, they want to become superpowers. They're going to become superpowers. But what next, or what is the case for the rest of the teams? What happens to the rest of the footballing world? So I just want to ask you, what was the first reaction when you actually saw the rumor and when the news was confirmed?
I mean, it was not as surprising as your reaction to this, because, I mean, I saw every club announce it one by one on Twitter, and then it was like, I mean, surprising in a sense, because I didn't expect this to come in this quick succession, because, in 18th of April, even in the evening, like there were rumors that, okay, a Super League might be announced soon, and then it became might be announced this evening, and then in the evening the inevitable just happened. Like clubs began announcing, even 12 clubs announced officially that they had become the founders of the European Super League. So the rumors have been here ever since the 21st century began. We know these kind of talks used to happen, and we always thought these kind of talks were something that was ideal. But now, since it has happened, my first reaction was I was not surprised, but I was kind of disappointed that it finally happened. So in my case, it was utter disappointment. And of course, I can relate to you to the fact that my club is also involved in this. And I feel very, for the fact that not even disappointed can justify it. I feel grieved because I never expected this to happen this quick, and with the clubs like Liverpool and Barcelona involved in this.
Yeah, I just want to list out the 12 clubs who kind of stood out as a disgrace to a lot of fans. So before moving on to further talk, I just want to list out the 12 clubs. 6 clubs from England, 3 clubs from Spain, 3 clubs from Italy. The 6 clubs from England being the big six as they are called. Manchester City, who are owned by a complete state, which is the UAE, Sheikh Mansour. They are owned by an oligarch, an entire state in Sheikh Mansour, that's Manchester City. Liverpool are being owned by John Henry and Fenway Sports Club, another big businessman who has spent years and years saying that they care about the club, they care about the fans. Another owner, Chelsea, Russian billionaire oligarch Roman Abramovich. Moving on to Tottenham, Joe Lewis, British billionaire, he's the owner. Daniel Levy also playing a big part there. Manchester United, who's owned by one of the worst ownership in football right now, the Glazer family, American billionaires. So at Arsenal, of course, Stan Kroenke. I mean, Arsene Wenger, when he was there, he kind of stood against everything that was supposed to fall like this. I mean, he stood for all the ethos the club held. He stood for all the ethos that football had for a long period of time. Then he slowly started seeing things go berserk, and he's right now he's not under contract or anything. But Arsenal, Stan Kroenke, another American billionaire who also owns a club in NFL, if I'm not wrong. So these are the six English clubs who are the villains. The three Spanish clubs, Real Madrid, Barcelona. They say that they are fan owned, but they've recently had presidential elections, and Joan Laporta of Barcelona won the election massively with support from the socials, with support from the Barcelona fans all over social media. What was the support for? That's a question I guess we need to ask. Real Madrid, they elected Florentino Perez again, who is supposedly the mastermind behind all this, according to various reports. Atletico Madrid, once again owned by Miguel Angel Marin, who was convicted actually of taking out over 20 million out of Atletico Madrid, the club, early part of the century. So you have owners like this, and also the three Italian teams. I mean, I might actually not want to speak about Andrea Agnelli, who is the owner of Juventus, who also owns Fiat, if I'm not wrong. The way he snaked UEFA, I know UEFA are no good people here in this debate as well, but the way he snaked, the way he maneuvered everything, that this is absolutely awful. Inter, the other club, owned by billionaire Zhang. AC Milan, once again owned by the Americans Elliott Management Fund. So they are apparently labeled as the Vulture Fund as well. So these are the 12 clubs. These are supposedly the clubs, the legacy clubs that this is supposed to be known as legacy clubs. I know this probably might be a joke because the likes of Atletico Madrid, Spurs, that is Tottenham, and Arsenal have a combined zero Champions League titles for European Cups, which is quite funny. So, Sudesh, coming on, I just want to know your take on Barcelona. When Joan Laporta was selected, I know the were talks of European Super League and Joseph Bartomeu, and I remember forwarding a post onto a WhatsApp group where Bartomeu completely opened up on the European Super League and said this is going to happen, and we were laughing at it if you remember. I know what's your reaction as a Barcelona fan, and what do you think actually about the club's decision?
Yeah, I mean, let's just start from the first instance, like you mentioned, when Josep Maria Bartomeu going to resign, or in his last speech as Barcelona president, in his resignation speech. I mean, he was the first big name that disclosed European Super League, although everyone knew that something was happening behind the curtains, and it had been happening for a long time. So it was the first shot at European Super League, and perhaps the first high-profile revelation that something serious was going on. And while we knew Barcelona under Bartomeu were kind of run like a business, and they were much more financially focused than what we expect of a particular football club. So, and that happened, and then it was post Bartomeu, the club was kind of run by the interims and stuff like that. But when now the announcement came in, I didn't expect Barcelona to be in that list, just because I still remember Joan Laporta talking in January and opposing the whole notion of European Super League. And while people might argue that Barcelona might have agreed to the Super League when Bartomeu was in charge, but you cannot absolutely deny the power that Joan Laporta has right now. So I'm not entirely blaming this on Laporta or to Bartomeu, but it's something like when you advocate about something or go against something and sell it to your voters when in an election, I think you got to stand by it. And Joan Laporta, in this sense, holds a significant power as the Barcelona president. And I think that could have been at least delayed in Barcelona's favor. But since Barcelona have chosen to go with it, I mean, there might be factors such as the financial debt that Barcelona is in, and or they might have already given a word. But I still think something could have been done if Barcelona were not particularly pleased with this proposal that Florentino Perez kind of created. So Barcelona might be a club that are morally upwards, but I think as a Barcelona fan right now, this clearly opposes what we've always been proud of, the Mescovan club kind of notion. And I think it's the same kind of thing in the other half as well. You as a Liverpool fan, you might be as disgusted as I am right now. So what's your reaction on this as a Liverpool fan?
I mean, I actually didn't see this coming. I know we've had like a lot of history under FSG, the owners who took over from the mess that was Hicks and Gillett, who kind of ran our club to the ground. But I think the supporters union stood for that. They ran out Hicks and Gillett, but then FSG came in. They tried to drive up the ticket prices. The fans protested against that, and they listened to the fans. They tried to trademark the name Liverpool. Even the fans protested for the same thing, and there was allegations against as well. So all those, they kind of listened to the fans. There was a furlough as well last year during the pandemic, where they decided to furlough few staff, and because of the backlash that they received from the fans all over social media, they kind of reversed the decision. So they've kind of been the owners who made mistakes, a lot of mistakes, but then backtracked after getting the response or the backlash from the fan. So I can't say that they've been like horrible owners, but they've actually listened to the fans. But their motive has always kind of made me skeptic, because it's always one mistake or the other, and this is probably just the icing on the cake. Because I mean, I don't know, it's just, we are all football fans first, right? Before supporting a club, we are all football first and then the club. So you look at it from a football fan's perspective. You look at how this is going to ruin the football pyramids. You look at how this is going to ruin the whole ethos behind football. You look at how this is going to actually take away the soul that's in the game. I'm not saying it's already been taken. It's already been taken actually. A massive amount's already been plucked out of the game. We all know that, but I know a lot of people have also argued the fact that, okay, there's already so much bad in the game. Why are you even crying out right now? One simple answer, bro. I mean, it doesn't mean, or if a lot of things have already been plucked out, it doesn't mean you have to allow more bad things to happen. It just doesn't work that way. It doesn't just go that way. This is absolutely awful as a Liverpool fan perspective, and I've seen a lot of scousers, local scousers, who are season ticket holders, who are fans of the club, who've been fans of the club for years and years. I've just been supporting the club from 2008. There are fans who supported from the 90s, early 90s, who supported under the Paisley era as well, actually protesting. So this is actually a good sign from the fan base, but when you look at it from the club's perspective, the owner's perspective, this is absolutely awful. This is just similar to a backstab. That's probably the best definition that I can give.
Yeah, I mean, you pointed out just the right thing about seeing football in general and seeing it as a fan, and how it ruins the football pyramid. And that brings us to a question where you kind of pointed out that it has already been ruined, or people who argue like that. And I agree to the fact that UEFA are not completely innocent or the saints in this thing, but the notion of like selected football clubs, 12 of them going on and creating their own league is what bothers me. I mean, you can always look at the alternatives, like, there were reforms needed, right? UEFA had its own shortcomings and stuff like that. But the fact that 12 clubs go on and then create their own league, even though they were warned that you can be suspended from your own league and stuff like that. That shows the audacity. And now let's come to the timings, right? After the COVID-19 pandemic, we all knew European Super League was a thing ever since the 21st century came in. But how do you think like the clubs chose this timing? I mean, it can be a perfect excuse that we are bankrupt, and then the clubs can to run their operations if they join the European Super League. So, do you think this was an excuse, or was this like the decision was preponed because of the pandemic?
I mean, it's not a secret that the whole concept of a European Super League or a Super League has been like in the talk from the 90s, the late 90s. So I heard fans say that they've actually heard of the whole thing being rumored from the late 90s, the 1998, etc. So this is not a secret. So this has always been under the cards. But the fact is that UEFA somehow managed to hold the clubs. But with all these owners having a lot of power in the last decade or more than or 1.5 decades in the footballing world, the likes of Roman Abramovich, the likes of Sheikh Mansour, the likes of John Henry, Florentino Perez, these guys hold a lot of power. And these clubs, these big clubs have dominated Europe. These big clubs have dominated their leagues, and they've completely turned it into a money league where the rich gets better while the poor has to try hard and hard to catch up with them. And we see, we kind of see a rare case like the Leicester one where they won the league. I mean that's what we want to see in football, right? That's what we want to see in the football. I know it's never gonna be fair game in football ever, because nothing's gonna be fair in life or the world that we live in. But at least the best thing that you can do is to somehow make this comparatively fair. I know the big clubs might always be a level above the rest in terms of financial muscle or the financial power, but at least try to keep it that way and give the other clubs a chance. So this, I think, has always been under the cards. I think even 2 years ago we heard a massive shift in power where these guys were discussing. And I think last season we heard there was a project Big Six being discussed in the Premier League, where the Big Six wanted a chunk of power. So that was completely brushed off with support from the other Premier League clubs and people. So I think this has always been under the cards, but the timing that they've chosen right now, I think that they've seen a few things. So there was I heard that there was some spokesperson from one of the Super League clubs who labeled fans as legacy fans. I'll come to that. That's probably the biggest disgraceful sentence or labeling that I've heard from any owners, probably. But I'll come to that. But they brushed off some fans as legacy fans, and they said that they're looking for the next generation or whatever. And they also said that they knew this would obviously get a huge PR backlash. So they were expecting this, and they said they don't care. So I don't think the fans' interest was never an agenda for them or never a problem for them. And in addition to that, I think choosing this situation where the pandemic is going, you don't have people coming into the stadium right now. So this probably might be the best time to introduce that, considering you don't get direct protests in the stadium and you don't get massive backlash or people coming in the stadium and hitting, or probably there's no chance of violence or a mass direct in-person protest. So I think they picked the time very wisely, and at the end of the season as well. So I mean, yeah, that's probably what I want to say again.
Yeah, I mean, nothing can particularly stop the influx of fans, provided that we've seen Old Trafford and Anfield being occupied by fans with special messages that we all fans echo. And now, since we've talked about the big clubs, now let's talk about the small clubs. I mean, small clubs have been very vocal about their opposition to this whole notion. The likes of Real Betis or even Moscow and clubs from all around England, Spain, opposing this notion. So how do you feel? How do you view the initial reactions that the small, so-called small clubs by these big powers? How do you see the reactions that they have given in this first 24 hours of the announcement?
I think whatever we've seen from the clubs, I don't want to label them small clubs, like you said, because I think right now it's probably not the best time to label them small clubs because they deserve massive respect for the way they've gone about with their business. So imagine being a club, or imagine being Leicester, who are run so well from top to bottom. They've actually taken years to become a stable club. You look at the whole club, Leicester, the way they've run. They do good in transfers. They have a really good backroom staff. They have a really good coaching staff. They have a really good squad. Their club is run really well from top to bottom, financially as well as in all the other areas as well. You asked me a club that is well run. Leicester is a classic example, and they're not one among the big six. They're not one with huge tradition of winning European titles or anything. So they're just a club who come to the Premier League, who won the Premier League against all odds, found found ways to make the club stable and compete against these top teams. So imagine being a Leicester and and watching these big clubs completely brush you aside and start their own thing where they get more money and they still want to play in the domestic leagues and and get a massive advantage with all the money. So imagine being that set, and especially just see the way Arsenal Football Club is run. It's absolutely shambolic the way the club is run. So imagine being a Leicester fan or someone from the Leicester board and seeing the likes of Arsenal go there, or seeing the likes of Arsenal be mentioned among the biggest ones, the biggest clubs, and getting introduced to a completely new league where they get advantage for no merit whatsoever. So that has to irk you a lot. I know this probably is coming out as a rant from my side, but I don't think I can stop this probably for today. So yeah, that's my whole view actually. I think whatever these clubs have actually posted so far, I've seen Wolves actually post a really nice video. I really like the way they put that message out. I've seen Borussia Dortmund as well speak out, although Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich are two of the clubs who are invited, and that's still in under the process. So I just don't want to bring them in completely or make them look like the same as completely. So I think whatever criticism these clubs who are not invited to the ESL, or who are completely left out, have shown, I think it's all very much warranted.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that you took an example of Leicester City, and what better example of football winning at all costs than Leicester City's Premier League winning campaign. And what concerns me in this situation is, if we are to see a European Super League, and if we are to see clubs like Leicester City thrive, it's not possible at the same time. European Super League, being the top, like if it's founded and if it's executed, will be the topmost competition in Europe and probably in the world in terms of football. And I cannot see teams like Leicester City, Sevilla hold on to stars that they are doing right now. I mean, Jamie Vardy has led Leicester City for quite some time now, and I don't see players having that motive to kind of stay, or not be in the proper topmost competition. And that is a platform that I think UEFA Champions League definitely provides the clubs, provided that we've seen Leicester play it, and we've seen some incredible stories coming in. And in that regards, I mean, we've talked about money, we've talked about the intent, we've talked about the football pyramid, and in that sense, like the pure essence of football, or thinking as an emotional footballing idea that hampers not only fans but incredible football stories as well.
Absolutely. I mean, and what surprises me the most is that Bayern and PSG have remained out. I know both these clubs are no saints. They are massively involved in sports washing. As much as the fans of these clubs would hate hearing, these two clubs probably are two good examples of sports washing. And Karl-Heinz Rummenigge, who is also rumored to have had a massive influence in the formation of a super league, because he's been provoking this idea for long, and that's always been out in the media, and right now he's saying he doesn't want a super league or something. So I'm not sure how that, or I'm not sure how Bayern or Dortmund are gonna, you know, or where Bayern or Dortmund are gonna end up, because I certainly don't see a European Super League without Bayern Munich. So I still think there is a good chance we might see them sometime, but yeah, I think whatever is happening, it's not for the right reasons whatsoever. But probably moving into the last part of this rant, I don't want to call this podcast. This is probably more of a rant than a classic podcast. So yeah, moving on to the last part of this rant, I just want to ask you, Sudesh, what you feel is going to be the players' reaction, or the manager's reaction, or even the club staff's reaction to this? Because I mean, I heard this report from Melissa Reddy, who wrote for the Independent, that none of the club staff were informed, the players weren't in loop, neither were the managers. So they're all actually frustrated by the way this has come out in the media. So what do you think, or how do you think they'll respond?
I mean, yeah, reports have emerged that neither of the backroom staff or the players or the coaches were informed when these Big 12 uh, European sides decided to join the European Super League. And that in itself is a very sad thing, because, I mean, players and coaches and backroom staffs are a big part of the club. I mean, the starting 11 or the players might be actually the running board for any football club, and they were not consulted. And I just saw Simon Hughes's report on the Athletic, and he also revealed a letter that Liverpool's chief executive sent the internal staff after the decision was made. So even that goes to an extent that even the executive staffs were told after the decision was made. So I think this is very unfair to the whole football fraternity. We can understand that clubs are going through bankruptcy. We can understand that functioning in normal circumstances might not as well be as normal as they used to be pre-pandemic. But deciding on something as huge as this one, which creates ripples not only in the football world but throughout the whole globe, and not referring to your players, not referring to your coaches, and even not referring to your backroom staff or the executive staffs, is in itself a disgrace. I mean, the decision itself is a disgrace, as we've talked about it for the last 30 minutes or so. And players not having a say in this is itself a disgrace. And now, talking about what players will do with this, I mean, players are under contract with their clubs, and if the clubs decide, it's up to the players that they should play, and they will play if provided that the clubs decide to go in the European Super League format. And I saw a statement made by RFEF that kind of reiterated the fact that players need to be protected under these circumstances and should not come in between of the two attractions, the two forces, that is these 12 clubs and the FIFA and UEFA governing bodies. So in this case, I think footballers have until now remained neutral, with exceptions of some football players that have been vocal about it, and I think that's the right way to go for it. But I think this is going to be quite an interesting watch, provided that this very idea moves forward, and what the players will be given of. I mean, for the decision-making process, they have not been given any rights, neither the coaches. But I think for the execution part of it, if this notion decides to go on, it will be an interesting thing to see. But I absolutely see players slowly but steadily getting out, and then having their say on this, at least on the either side of things. So it will be an interesting watch. And what are your takes on this?
That's actually pretty interesting, Sudesh. But like I mean, I mentioned, I just really don't know what's really going to happen here. So I do think that this whole thing is going to happen eventually, because I don't think there's any way that now that they backtrack. Also considering the fact that JP Morgan are the ones who are going to fund, and so it's pretty. I don't know. Uh, I mean, Chris basically sent us a WhatsApp message earlier today saying that he doesn't see, or he hasn't seen any kind of broad plans listed out, and neither have we, right? So we haven't seen any kind of a roadmap or anything listed out, for the Europa Super League. Maybe that's all kept under the blanket probably right now for now. So I'm probably going to rule out that aspect of it. But when you look at it from a player's perspective, though, I mean, UEFA and the FIFA are saying that they are probably going to ban the players who play for these Super League clubs from international countries and all the confederations and also all the UEFA competitions. So, how many players would actually, take the risk of not playing or representing their international team and playing for the Super League clubs? That probably is an interesting question to ask ourselves. I know a lot of such questions might pop up, and that's why this probably is like a 2-3 hour episode, or this probably could be a 2-3 hour episode or chat. I don't want to actually drag it so long, because this is supposed to be a small rant, an emergency rant. So I think I think we'll probably have to wait and see what happens, right? To see how people respond. I for one. I know we are recording this episode just before the Leeds Liverpool game, so I for one, I'm interested to hear what Jurgen Klopp has to say. So I just want to hear what the people or the players, the managers have to say, and what happens in the summer is going to be really really interesting, considering we also have the Euros.
Yeah, I mean, up until now, up until we are in this podcast, it's been like we've just seen developments, we've just seen events happening one after the other. We still receive the feedbacks and the reactions that the players, that the managers uh, will keep on giving us. So it will be interesting to see, in a sense, that how things will take turn, or how this plan proceeds. Although all of us, won't even want that plan to go on and on, but it looks more serious than ever now. And the last thing that I want to talk about is the people that are arguing that, this model of football might well be more successful, provided that the American model, as it's called, is already successful with the likes of NFL and stuff like that. But what I think in this matter is that okay, it's a different system altogether. In European football, you see clubs and their grassroots academies, and they just fight for one dream, to play their national league. But in America, the things are different. They have a college level tournaments, and then there are like these ultimate tournaments. So I think switching into that format and creating a European Super League all of a sudden would definitely hamper the football pyramid. And in another sense, it's not in the culture that we want to see football. So football matches might still happen, but like the system, the whole disruption is not a price that we want to pay, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a very fair point, Sudesh. And I think probably we've gone way past the time that we were supposed to rant and podcast. So I'll just probably end it with this one statement. Football, the football that I know is probably has probably tried to be inclusive as much as possible, and that's the kind of football that I want, and that's the kind of football that I think a lot of fans want to see. We want to see inclusivity. We want to see meritorious awards, or we want to see people being awarded based on merit, not based on some financial strength and some random businessmen and oligarchs taking some random decisions. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
probably the way I want to sum up this.
yeah. I want to sign off with Marcelo Bielsa quote, of course. So shall I do the sign off with a Marcelo Bielsa quote?
Absolutely, go on.
Yeah, so this is going to be very unconventional sign off, and since this episode itself is unconventional, so here goes Marcelo Bielsa's quote that he said. It goes like, "One of the reasons football is the most powerful sport in the world is because the weak can beat the powerful." So with that, we've come to the end of the episode. This was a bonus episode for you all. Keep listening to the Nutmeg Assist podcast. We'll be here with some more interesting episodes in the future. Till then, bye bye. On behalf of me, Sudesh, and my co-host Rithwik.
Yep, and 1 minute silence for the football that we need.